Now, there are some, of course, things that are going to affect our Seahawks on the other side of this, as far as not fallout, but just a general, reaction. And that Coach Carroll is a guy that is going to be very familiar with the players on our roster. He is certainly not going to have the control that he once did from a general manager standpoint. I'm sure he is going to be strictly in a head coaching role, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to have a voice. And certainly he can sell people quite a bit. He sold John on a lot of different deals, I'm sure. And so he'll be trying to do, I'm sure, some similar things, and maybe even to some potential guys that we're looking at here on our roster. Does he get, the starry eyes for a DK Metcalf or a Tyler Lockett or a Kenneth Walker or an Uchenna Nwosu? We'll see on this if there's some kind of potential deals that come down the line of that. I think the messages I've been getting right off the rip over on Twitter and a couple directly is, does this then mean Geno is going to be moved? Does Geno now go with Coach Carroll to the Raiders? And if I was being a betting man and putting my money down, I would guess that what we're going to see is Sam Darnold go to the Raiders. There are rumors already that he's maybe already on a airplane going there. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if that's really, I don't know. It seems that maybe. But what we do know about Coach Carroll is that much like John Schneider's affinity for Quinn Ewers has been years long in the making, so too has Coach Carroll had a long affinity that he's even spoken to in regards to Sam Darnold. He's a USC quarterback, so right there, that already is going to, pull Coach Carroll to him a little bit. But he's just always liked Sam and how he's talked about him and what we've also kind of heard in the background of that. And that this just seems to make too much sense from a move standpoint. Sam Darnold is the hot to trot quarterback out there on the open market, especially considering age. The Raiders have about $92 million in cap space to spend. So nobody can outspend the Raiders for Sam Darnold. And that would, to me, lead me to believe that they'll find a way to get a deal done. And that there doesn't make a lot of sense on this one. The Raiders are picking, I think, 6th overall in the first round. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to be going for a quarterback up at the top of the draft here that's probably not going to be available to them where they're picking. Going to Sam Darnold makes a lot of sense. And then this sets them things up very interestingly, in my opinion, as far as from the Seahawks perspective and how that's concerned, because now you get some fallout that goes back to a Geno Smith. Because my belief is on this is that Geno Smith is not going to play out the final year of his deal here in Seattle. Seattle has to then decide whether they want to give a contract extension to him or not. They're not afforded the ability to just kind of sit back and wait it out. And I believe that then is going to mean that it's potential of a trade out there to be made. And what would then drive that, of course, would be a team that was willing to give him the contract extension that the Seahawks were not willing to give him. And if Darnold is pulled off the board here by the Raiders, something that stands out as I look at the teams, just kind of looking at like draft order, and those teams that are there, they're going to be that are not going to be able to get a Cam Ward, that are probably not going to be able to get a Shadur Sanders. And I go, wow, there's a lot of teams there that kind of need a quarterback, especially some teams that could look at themselves and say, if we had a functional quarterback at the position, if we had a top 10 level type of quarterback at the position, we could be a contender. And I'm not saying that we are going to move him here, but I am going to say that if Darnold gets removed this early off the board to the Raiders, when you look at it, let me show you right here. These are the quarterbacks that are due to be free agents this offseason. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, Drew Lock, Jared Stidham, Andy Dalton. Justin Fields is interesting, and certainly he's going to be a bit of a commodity on the open market, but how much so? How much so? Do the Raiders even let him go? Yeah, maybe Russell Wilson is the guy that's also the guy that's on the market here. Jameis Winston, Mac Jones, Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo. I think you guys can get the idea of what I'm trying to sell here a little bit. And that is that there's not a lot of great quarterbacks out there when we're talking about Geno compared to Jacoby Brissett, Geno compared to Marcus Mariota, Geno compared to Andy Dalton. I think he's got these guys pretty roundly beat all the way around. And you can look at some of the younger guys maybe, like a Mac Jones, and go, well, there's potential. I think that if you talk about where they're at right now, and you talk about being a team that if you're going to make a deal like this, saying, hey, we think we are kind of close on this realm of it, this could end up driving up a bit of, not driving up to unrealistic places as far as the cost goes on a Geno for a trade, but just that it also could press John a little bit on this if he's able to pull a deal off that, he feels is kind of close to a steal too from this situation. All of it depends on a lot of different factors here, but just some of the little bit of fallout that could come from this Coach Carroll deal as it sort of affects our Seattle Seahawks is if Darnold gets pushed off the board here, you quickly have a lot of teams now that are going to be kind of left scrambling, I think, for the position because it's a weak draft. And this is something that also can push these kind of trades is if there aren't as many quarterbacks to pick up at the high point of the draft, then teams are going to look for alternative paths.